Hey, 7th grade science students. I'm sure at this point you have read about a unique type of assessment that you're going to do at the end of this unit called a verbal defense. And so before some of you just completely freak out about this, some of you may not be bothered by it, some of you may be stressing already, I want you to just calm down. So I wanted to make this short little video to explain to you what I'm looking for here. So what I'm basically looking for is at the end of this unit, and obviously I'm giving you those 4 questions ahead of time, but at the end of this unit, I want you to be familiar enough with the material in the unit to just be able to sit down and talk to me about it. That's all I want. I just want you and I to basically, it's not a conversation because I'm not going to respond. I'm just going to listen. When I did this in my classroom, in the physical classroom, one of the things that I told students was, which I felt like helped them sometimes, was to think about talking to me as if I were a student who had been gone for this whole unit. Maybe I'm a student who was sick or traveling or just starting the year late, and I'm asking one of these questions. I don't have any background knowledge. I want you to explain to me the answer to one of these questions. So think about it that way. And when I say that I want your answer to be conversational, what I mean is exactly that, is kind of the way that I'm talking to you right now. I do not have a script in front of me. I'm just talking to you off the top of my head. And so what I want to be able to do on that day that you answer this question is, again, we'll flip over one of the cards. It'll be one of the 4 questions that you've known about for a month. And I'll read the question, and I just want you to respond to me, but I want you to talk to me about it. Okay? This is not a speech that you memorize. This is not something that you are just going to, again, memorize and regurgitate back to me. It's a conversation in a way that I want you to be comfortable doing it. Think about topics that you may be really familiar with. If you play a sport, for example, and somebody just comes up to you and wants to ask you, let's say you play soccer, they come up and they want to ask you questions about soccer. Your brain is already filled with a ton of information about soccer, and you basically say, sure, what do you want to know? I can talk to you about whatever. So that's the idea of this, is I want you to become familiar enough with these topics that you can answer them in a comfortable way. You don't have to freak out about it. You don't have to feel like you're going to memorize something and sound like a robot or a recording that all I'm doing is pressing play and I'm hearing this robot speak. I want you to talk to me about it. But at the same time, at the end of this, you'll have spent a month studying these topics, and I want you to be able to use the scientific language. I want you to be able to speak intelligently like a young scientist on these topics, and I want you to be able to give me a lot of details and without looking at notes, which is a key component of this. This is not something where you are going to be shuffling through a bunch of papers or something like that. You're just going to talk to me about it. You're not going to refer to notes. You're not going to have note cards or anything like that. So I hope this helps a little bit. Again, this wasn't supposed to create more stress for you. Excuse me. The idea is just to tell you that basically you know these questions. You're given them a month in advance. Like I said, use the advice that I gave you. I would take at least a sheet of paper in your notebook and put the question at the top of each one. And then as you learn some of this information, think about, as you go through the unit, think about which of the 4 questions it may apply to, and go back and take little notes on that page. So by the end of the unit, as you approach that last week, excuse me, you will have, on each of these pages, you will have a whole series of notes and ideas about this, and you just kind of have to organize them together. And that's where I said practicing this with a family member or friend or whoever, just to get used to, because the more you do it, the more comfortable you'll get. And at first you may write yourself kind of an outline, and you may use that and practice, and you'll have it in front of you. And the more you practice, the less you'll have to look down at it, till eventually you'll be able to basically give your response without looking down at some of your bullet points that you would want to talk about. Okay, and again, when I say, making some notes, I don't want you to just memorize something and just rattle it off like you're just, I remember I had to memorize the preamble to the Constitution when I was in school, and it didn't really help me learn anything. It was just words in my head, and I just kind of regurgitated them like a tape recorder. That's not what I want. I want you to just be able to talk to me about this topic. Okay, these are all geology topics. Tell me what you've learned about this geological event or topic or whatever it is. Okay, so the last thing I would say, and I think I put this in some of the suggestions, is on your note sheet. What I would do is maybe on the left-hand side, put a list of scientific concepts. So, hey, these are the key words that I want to make sure that I go over, because these are really important concepts to answering this question. And then you can kind of work those into your answer. And the more comfortable you get with this as you practice it, if you give this practice answer to a family member or a friend, the more comfortable you get, the more you'll find that each time you give the answer, it's a little bit different. And that's exactly what it should be. If I were to stop this recording right now and do the whole thing over again, it would be a little different, even though all of the content would still be there. And that's what I want. I want you to just talk to me about the topic, but also in a casual way, because the more casual and conversational, I guess I should use that term, conversational, not casual, more conversational something is, the more confident it shows that you are in how well you understand this. But at the same time, you're going to use scientific terminology, you're going to explain things in quite a bit of detail, and yet you're going to seem like you're unfazed by this because you know the information so well. Okay? So this hopefully will help explain this a little bit, and what this is going to look like. If you have questions, please feel free to email me. But right now, you're just going to you're at the beginning of the unit anyway. Just get those questions down and do the activities like you would in a normal week. But as you're learning the information, think about which of the 4 questions that information, would fall under. And then just kind of take your notes in that way. You're going to do it a little differently this unit than maybe you would in some units. Okay? Thanks for listening. Relax, okay? And enjoy this geology unit. It's one of my favorite subjects.